to Open School of Business. I'm happy that today I think I will be able to inspire you to do a real bootstrapping startup, because today's show guest is Qaid Jivan, and he's going to tell you all about his business that he started with his partner, Scott. And we're going to learn a lot about doing a business where there is an IT component, but I think also a big business component. So welcome, Qaid. Please introduce yourself, how you got to launch this amazing business in the space of talent management and talent attraction, and where you're from, how you started, all that, the good stuff from the whole beginning.
Awesome. Yeah, can do. And yeah, I'll just start talking. Feel free to hop in if you want to dig into anything in there. So my name's Qaid. I was born and raised in Vancouver, Canada. And I met my co-founders Steve and Scott in our university days here at Simon Fraser University, which is a local university. We're all three of us were in business, but completely different areas. So Steve was in investment banking. Scott was on the technology side. He went on to become a Salesforce architect with a company called Traction on Demand. And we stayed in touch. I'm personally ended up in the IT portfolio management space. So when I was there, we were working on these huge projects in the neighborhood of about $1 billion in capital spend. And hiring was a pain. Like, it was a huge issue that we constantly faced. On one project, it was a 300-person team, and they were hiring everyone basically from scratch. So that process was obviously a nightmare. Our traditional processes were too slow. Posting, waiting, then responding to applicants, then screening them. And by that point, you've lost everyone good, like few exceptions. So I pitched an idea to my boss of, what if we just had a digital bench of talent? We know what the project is. We know what their hiring plans are going to be. What if we just started recruiting more proactively and fill up a talent pool? And we started doing that basically with a minimum product, which was just a Google spreadsheet and a handful of business analysts.
Right.
Saw that they were getting hired by my boss for free. So I pulled Steve and Scott in at this time. I actually wrote a paper on it for Simon Fraser University recruitment marketplaces. We spoke to over 100 people before we wrote any code to see if this made sense.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the money. We weren't about to spend our time going to raise. We were working full-time jobs. So we eventually found our first few clients. We started building out the product, a very minimum version of it that worked some of the time. And then got some first clients, and then decided we should quit our jobs. And then, yeah, fast forward 5 years later, and with the initial investment of $3,000, we cracked $1 million in year 4, which was pretty cool.
And what is your business model exactly? When you said you had your first clients and now fast forward 5 years, have you changed it, and what was it initially?
Oh yeah, I mean, for the first year, our business model was basically don't charge for anything and deliver candidates for free, which was very dumb. That's a good first learning, is charge for your work. Even if you don't think it's the best, you're still probably providing a really good service. It's very tempting for first-time entrepreneurs not to charge. The business model, the way it works now, is we have 2 models. One is so we find resources based on our clients' upcoming needs, or resources come to us, resources being talent. They sign up on the platform, they go through a pretty rigorous pre-interview process, and then they have to opt in as available every 2 weeks, and they get a whole bunch of free free things, whether that's resume support, interview support, and talent doesn't pay anything. So the talent, when they come on the platform, they're supported in their search process, and that's that. On the client side, traditional recruiting agencies will charge between 20 and 30% on top of a candidate's first year's annual salary. We charge right in the middle of that at about 25% on top of their first year's annual salary. And they're paying for that because, we cut down the number of resumes they look at by sometimes as much as 80 or 90%.
Mhm.
Cut down on the time it takes to hire, which is super important for technology projects and consulting firms.
Yeah, you have available people to start like as soon as they approve.
Get them in and get them
Yeah,
billing, right?
yeah.
So yeah, so we're able to deliver that much quicker. And for organizations that just don't have an HR team or a recruitment team, we're pretty valuable as well. The alternative model, which is super disruptive for the recruitment space, is because we have so much automation built into Salesforce that helps us recruit faster and more effectively. Thank you, Scott. We're able to charge a ongoing SaaS fee, and you can hire up to 3 people through that process, and it costs the same as basically one hire. So it's a steal of a deal, and it's really good for
Mhm.
consulting firms that need to ramp up quick.
Right. And that is um, like a membership fee that a company pays every month for the
Yeah,
SaaS.
based on the kinds of hires
And
that
you get 3 hires every month if you like.
get 3 hires per year.
Oh,
You
per
get
year. Okay. Every
new
month would be
candidates.
a lot.
Every month would be pretty crazy.
Yeah. And
Full
even finding clients like that, unless they're huge, big tech companies.
yeah,
But I love the way you approached it because I think, I'm coming from the consulting space and I get it. That's how they do it. They make sure they get the best talent and they make sure that you're not on the bench for a long time. But you
yeah,
still need to go, to your client and go through the interview or the resume review and things like that. But usually they will be fine. It's a very quick process because everyone is already high quality
yeah.
professionals. So if you're doing that, you're on the verge of being like a tech company slash consulting at the same time.
Yeah.
So do you have any kind of restrictions in terms of what kind of talent do you have available?
Great question. Great question. And tying it back to the bootstrapped approach, one of the things that's really effective when you bootstrap is finding a niche and then sticking with it for a while,
Yeah.
because you can't do everything at once. So when we started, our focus was just business analysts and project managers in technology companies. We've since kind of expanded outside of that, and basically anything on a technology project team we can deliver, and anything from the construction side, because we started in project management, we just stayed with construction project managers and that was it. We didn't move any further in that space, but we're really good at that.
Yeah.
So that includes any kind of software developer you can think of, QA analysts, software architects, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's really important for your clients to know that this is where they will get definitely good candidates and very fast. So, and then you know what persons to hire in terms of your own process. And that's my next question. I get it that, you have a technology piece that makes it more efficient, but I'm sure you have certain people, professionals that do the screening and interviews and things like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that's really important to us is we use technology to enable our recruiters and our account executives. It's not replacing them. Recruitment is a intensely human process.
Yeah.
And as a result, what we can do is we can take away the grunt work using technology. But when it comes to the meeting, the interview, culture fit, for example, there's a lot of tools out there that claim to be able to automate it, and none of them have been highly adopted because they're not good enough. You need a person at the end of the day helping with that. So our recruitment team and our account executives are supported through technology, but it doesn't replace them.
Yeah. And when you just opened the business, there were 3 of you. How soon did you start recruiting your recruiters in the account
Oh, it was a
executives?
bootstrap company, so it was a long time.
Yeah.
I think, when we, were we were doing a lot of business and we were just 5 people. It wasn't until kind of early this year that we really started to have the cash in hand that we wanted, that we felt comfortable ramping up. I think one of the challenges as a bootstrap company is like, you remember the days where there wasn't a lot of business, and you were forced to eat ramen every day, and that was it. So
So you
you
had to do all the interviews and screening yourself with your partners.
Yeah, and actually, building our team wasn't so much of a challenge. I think the big challenge for a lot of kind of services companies is that bridge between, 15 to 30 people. There's this, and we see it with a lot of our clients as they start to climb over that chasm, if you will. It's really hard to kind of build in those management layers and keep the ball rolling. So yeah, I think that the ramp up really started, I guess, around this time last year, actually, summer of 2020, I think it was. Up until then, we were about 5 people, 6
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And I like how you mentioned that you guys knew each other from university years. So it made it a little bit more fun and easier to work. But when you do have disagreements, let's say, what's your approach? How do you guys solve stuff like that?
Well, the nice thing about having 3 people is that you're going to have 2 people are going to make a decision at least. And
Yeah.
the thing is, with the people we've brought on, I've always found that if even if I'm outvoted, I always feel like even if I'm certain that I was right, I still feel like there's a pretty good chance I was wrong, because these are
Yeah.
2 individuals who are extremely intelligent, extremely hardworking. So they're probably right. Realistically, I'd still bet on me, but they're probably right. So, and I know that they feel the same way. And whenever we run into challenges like that, it's always been like a very comfortable discussion. Like, hey, if this is the decision, this is the decision. Yeah, and I think one of the things that was important for us when we started is we made sure that we all had equal voting rights, from like a corporate level, so that we were able to make those decisions and not run into a stalemate situation.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I love that because it really highlights the culture, right? Your culture is more of a trusting culture in
Yeah,
terms of
absolutely.
you trust each other, you treat each other equally. And that's kind of a millennial thing, I think, is having equal part and giving equal rights to all the partners is great because there are some entrepreneurs who would want to weigh the contribution and then think about the percentages and things like that.
Mhm.
And sometimes it makes sense, but usually it complicates a lot. So that's interesting. But I'm also interested, like in terms of the value everyone brings and the responsibilities that you have, how much of it was sort of like we're doing it together. And there's certain things that, okay, this is Qaid's job, this is Steve's job, this is Scott's jobs. Like, how did you decide on who's going to be doing what
It was
based on the
pretty
experience?
it was pretty organic. So I think when I approached them, we'd actually approached a fourth person as well. And she actually ended up becoming a client of ours, which was kind of funny. But I picked them because we had very similar values alignment, very different skill sets. So Steve is a very skilled operator. He finished all 3 of his CFAs by the time he was 25, and just very smart, very hardworking individual. And so he ended up taking on a lot of the operational tasks, so finance, accounting, and all things to do with recruitment operations, which needs to be a very repeatable, scalable kind of thing. Scott was all basically technology, up until very recently, in product management. And then I handled a lot of the PR, relationship building, initial clients. I think one of the things that I'm really good at is figuring out a business model that works. That's one of the things that I've learned over time. And building relationships is another one that like I've always naturally kind of moved towards, which is I think one of the things that is really sorely needed in that product market fit stage of a startup. So that was kind of my wheelhouse, which is why I kind of took the lead role as CEO for the first chunk of time in a major way.
Wow. I really love that you said we had an alignment for from the value perspective, and very different skill sets is really makes the dream team, because you agree on things, but everyone is contributing and covering the blind side of others. And
Totally.
you can completely be comfortable, completely outsourcing and letting go of certain things that you're not good at, and you're doing what you're good at. So
And if
that's a
I
good.
may, one of the things that's so interesting about exactly what you said is those strengths change over time with the life cycle of the business.
Mm,
So what I brought to the table in a lead role in those early years, innovating, finding new clients, that kind of thing, is different from what an organization needs in the future. So for example, like Scott and Steve's process orientation and stuff like that, we're so blessed to have that because it enables scalability, whereas my approach enables maybe product market fit and a little bit more chaos.
yeah.
But yeah, that's been really interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's still valuable, because in the future things might will be for sure changing, and you will have to adapt, and that's where you'll have to look for the product market fit again, depending on what is happening. And but right now, I would say is much brighter and bigger opportunities because of the pandemic, and the people being able to completely be comfortable with virtual working, and even hiring, and completely having virtual teams. So
Mhm.
it's only for the best for you to expand and expand. So I'm really excited about this venture, and I'm happy we found time to talk.
Yeah, you bet.
So right now, since you are expanding, right, and you're doing these processes to be more effective, what are the other interesting challenges that you face, and how you're solving them? Or maybe something recent that you've already solved?
Yeah, that's a
Because,
great question. I mean, I think having like real market feedback has always been a big one. I think one of the books I always recommend to people is Lean Startup. And there's a book called A Good Hard Kick in the Ass, which actually includes a bit of Lean Startup in there.
oh,
Great book. Both
curious.
yeah, both written by like very experienced Silicon Valley startup people who talk about getting real market feedback at a very early stage of the business. One of the things that I know that I recommend to everyone, no matter where they're at in their career, if they're thinking of starting their own thing, don't build it in a vacuum. Don't be afraid to talk to people. No one's going to steal your idea. Even if and if they do, it all comes down to execution anyway,
Of
and if they
course,
did it
yeah.
better than you were going to lose anyway. But if you don't talk to people, you run the risk of wasting a lot of time. Because with us, it's we always have we have a monthly product meeting. We had daily stand-ups for the first 3 years, where we would bring feedback from our clients and our candidates, to solve problems throughout. So I think, an interesting one that's coming up for us is a lot of currently that we haven't quite solved yet but we've gotten the feedback for it, is a lot of our clients are looking for, are requiring their candidates, whoever gets hired, to be vaccinated. So some of our clients are health authorities and healthcare companies, and of course, if they're on site, they need to be vaccinated. Even if they're in the office, they need to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So we are currently navigating something that is brand new for a lot of recruitment spaces, which is, there's a legal component to it. What can we ask individuals
Exactly.
as a private organization to like, how do we want to display that information to clients? That's like a really interesting problem. So, we're going back, and is it
Yeah.
a problem worth solving? That's another big question you always have to ask yourself, because that one's difficult to get market feedback on. If you talk to someone, they'll give you a big laundry list of things they need, but they might not even use them. So what's the minimum way to show them what they want and see if they actually use that product?
Yeah.
So for these kinds of things, we use just traditional agile product management techniques. We use, like our own version of agile that everyone does, their own version. But we have, a Kanban board and a product roadmap and a backlog of items that are prioritized regularly with the team. And that's how we solve problems, is we use tried and true methods to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I love when CEOs have PM background. Makes a lot of things more efficient.
Definitely helps.
So yeah, it's amazing. I love that. And you are so right about asking the question whether if it's worth to solve it, because no one really knows how long this is going to be for.
Mhm.
And is
Oh
it
yeah.
really permanent? Because some people claim it will be the new normal, and some people claim that it will not really work. So it's something to ponder, because it takes resources to uh, even think about an issue, let alone actually propose some solutions. So,
Yeah. It's a
and to be
Go ahead.
honest, there could be demand for both, actually.
Mm.
So because there's this whole great resignation thing happening, where like it might be that the talent is the king rather than the employer, where
Mhm.
because there are more options now, and a lot of people are thinking about working with an employer who's overseas, and then there is no need to go to the office. And especially in your space of IT, I'm sure a lot of folks are used to virtual working already.
It's
So
Yeah, it's been a big change. I mean, we've had to speak to clients very frankly and tell them, if you aren't offering remote work for your software developers or your technology staff, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, because it's now a norm. It used to be a perk,
yeah,
not anymore.
I know that's interesting. And what about like in terms of your geography? Are you open to onboard any clients from, let's say, outside of North America?
Yeah, we've spoken to a few. It really just comes down to, like, the way our process works is we've always been a digital first recruiting product and company. um Traditional recruiters tend to be very stuck in a specific geographic region. We've proven that we don't have to be. We've spun
Yeah.
up talent pools in, North Carolina within a couple days, or over in the middle of nowhere, places in Canada, in the span of days, because it's purely technology based. If they exist online, we'll find them. So we can go anywhere in the world. If we are expanding to a new country, we just want to make sure it's the right partner. So we just, talk to them, figure out what the volume looks like, and determine how serious they are, because it's costly to spin up a new talent pool, usually for us.
Hmm.
And especially if it's on a pay per hire basis, that traditional recruiting model, we only get paid if they hire. So, and many clients, sometimes they just won't end up hiring for the role. So we just need to make sure they're serious.
Yeah, because especially if they want to sign up for a more long-term cooperation, they have to see the value,
Exactly.
and they have to have enough business to support that volume, let's say, and actually not change things up, and be able to just recruit in one space.
No, that's
Uh,
precisely correct. Yeah.
yeah, okay, that's really good. So
Yeah.
one of the other things that I always ask is, well, you talked about your favorite books in terms of work. Are there any any other things that inspired you to even quit your job and go on with the new enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, definitely quite a few things. I mean, I think I come from kind of like a line of entrepreneurs, if you will. So my grandpa and like basically I think 4 or 5 generations prior were all entrepreneurs. So they were born and raised in East Africa, and they owned a whole bunch very different businesses. I show my grandpa the different things all the time, and he has no understanding of how this works, but he loves looking at it. He's in his 90s now, so but that was always very inspiring for me, was just hearing some of those stories, and those were like truly bootstrapped. Like came to Africa with no money, couldn't read or write, and this
Yeah.
like great grandpa started selling beads and turned it into a multi-million-dollar empire, within the span of a couple generations, far beyond just beads. But yeah.
Yeah, because you're always pivoting,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes your product can be good for certain demographics, and then you realize, they're not ready yet. There's a
Yeah.
better client for this.
No,
So,
exactly. So that
yeah.
was inspiring. I actually keep some of those beads.
Oh, we want to
Yeah,
see.
this is the original packaging and everything, so I leave it on my desk
Mhm.
as a reminder to take risks. And it's more fun, I think. I do wonder if if when I leave this adventure, what will I want to start another business again? And it's pretty exhausting, but yeah, it's the learning's amazing. The flexibility and overcoming challenges is awesome, especially when you have a great team.
Yeah, I love that. They always say the grass is greener on the other side, because I hear a lot of entrepreneurs saying like, "Oh, what would be the next thing and the next thing?" And I wonder, how different is your mindset now that you're working for yourself rather than when you had a full-time job?
Honestly, it's not that different for me. I always came into organizations as a bit of an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and I never actually applied for a job. I was always kind of headhunted and pulled in. So in those situations, when I was going in as me, and I was going to solve problems the way I solve problems. And if that
Yeah.
doesn't work, then I probably shouldn't be there. Um, and I was often a contractor or kind of like a hired for like a specific part of the business or a project. Um, so my mindset never really changed. I don't think it ever really will.
Mm-hmm.
I don't view, which is kind of funny coming from a recruiter, uh, I don't view jobs as permanent things. And I
Yeah.
think the world is changing in that regard. They're seen as tours of duty, in a phrase. So, you go in, you solve some problems, you go to the next thing kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it hasn't changed that much.
Yeah. I like that because I think that has that a lot of that Eastern wisdom with doing things with the mind that let go. Because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of times there are people who work at their work, and doing their career, and they have the dissatisfaction about the work they're doing. And sometimes I coach them and I see that, yeah, it might improve a little bit if they did actually go into their own business. But for some people, it wouldn't really.
Mhm.
It's the mindset. Like if
It
they're
is.
miserable at something they're doing for other people, for a company, they'd be very miserable doing the same thing for themselves, I think, because
Yeah.
it's just a matter of how you take life. So I think it's good to be happy wherever you are, and that will prepare you more organically to your next step. It can be a new job, or it can be a new venture that you start, with your friends or without your friends. So
Yeah.
same with the being solopreneur versus with partners. I know it's much more responsibility doing it with partners, But at the same time, I think as a solopreneur, you would collaborate with other people on small short-term projects, let's say. And if you let them down there, and it's still the responsibility. So it doesn't really change much, depending on your situation or your the framework, let's say.
Yeah,
So I think, being holistic and happy person, it always helps in everything. Then it will lead to a better
that's
career and better business.
that's one of the most important things that I think most entrepreneurs can have is a handle on, their mental health, just and their health as a whole. Very hard to do. But yeah, those concepts of being able to let go of things and change your expectations, and the power of just having the right mindset towards things, especially things you can't control. There's a really great book, Anti-Fragile. The same author wrote Fooled by Randomness, but the best thing you can do is just expose yourself into positions where you have a lot of upside risk, because most of this is randomness and luck. As much as most entrepreneurs would not like to think that way, it's a truth to life.
Yeah, when everything is going well, it's because you did work, and when something bad happens, it's just luck.
Yeah,
That's how we
exactly,
take it.
right. Yeah, no, it actually goes both ways in reality.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, that's the truth. And I think it's amazing to realize that and being able to apply. So, and the work you guys are doing is amazing because it helps the employers to make profits faster, and the employees to get better jobs and
Totally.
improve the quality of their lives. So it's just really great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time today, Qaid. We wish you all the best and every luck that there is for your enterprise to grow. And yeah, we'll be happy to reconnect again when you guys achieve some more milestones you would like to uh, showcase.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.